We're gathered here today to witness the blessing to rap that is Noname. Noname Gypsy, well, no longer Noname Gypsy, which sucks because it adds even more mystery having one less name. Noname is a female rapper from Chicago. Used to work with Chance the Rapper on a couple of his mixtapes on Acid Rap. Also worked with him on a, coloring book. I have a bit of a soft spot in my heart for Chicago artists, not only because of their overcoming of the struggle of Chicago lifestyle, but also making some of the most organic music I've ever heard, from Saba to Mick Jenkins, Chance the Rapper, a bunch of people. I enjoyed Telephone, probably like 3-4 listens after. I did get the feeling that Telephone was one of those projects that came from an environmental no-name. So I feel like, you know, based off the music I've heard from her, she's very influenced by whatever environment she's in at the moment and tends to rap in such a way that reflects her experience in whatever environment she's in. Like most artists, but like it felt like it came across as a person who was not that experienced in life. And that made it have this like endearing quality to it. Like it's, I don't like to use this word, but it's kind of adorable, I guess you could say. So this time around, I'm looking for a little bit more of a, I don't know, mature album. This one's called Room 25. It's 13 tracks. No, it's 11 tracks. Let's hop into it. And yeah, let's talk about it. Track number 1 is called Self.
It's an album you listen to in your car when you driving home late at night, really questioning every guy, religion, Kanye bitches. Maybe this is an entrance with the wifey just wanting a clean divorce. The baby ain't really yours. It's really for baby's teeth and the chicken wings under season.
Maybe the baby ain't really yours? And did she just put Kanye right after the religion part? I mean, people do worship that man like he's a god. She said, maybe that baby really not yours. That's crazy. What do you know?
Every day he got me, Mr. Wiping me down, Mr. Me Love, Mr. Miyagi, miscellaneous.
I was waiting for that. I like the way she raps because she doesn't seem to want to have control over everything. Like it seems like she's just peering into everything that she sees and just having an opinion or a perspective on it. I'd much rather have somebody give me their thoughts on something rather than just verbatim tell me only how they are. I mean, you live in a world with 7 billion other people. You have to see something at some point. There's got to be something you have a perspective or an opinion on. There's so many different things, and I like the way she talks about it here. Ironically, though, the track is called Self. Track number 2 is Blaxploitation.
Nigga, did you take my money?
That's right, little bitch.
Oh, that's kind of just funky. Kind of funky and groovy at the same time.
Dance, monkey dance, cause these are gon' pay me good tonight. Eating Chick-fil-A in the shadows, that tastes like hypocrite. Yummy tasty, yeah, I'm hypochondriac. I'm struggling to simmer down, maybe I'm an insomnia black. Bad sleep, triggered by the activated the system. Who chicken bone, watermelon, traded hoodie for hipster, infatuated the minstrel.
You hear me, man? You understand? I am black.
I don't know, I really do like this track from like a musical standpoint. It's really funky, it's really groovy. His first 2 tracks so far have been, I had a little bit of a jazziness to them, but that track specifically was funky and pretty groovy. I don't know, some of the lines in that track kind of hinted at maybe like, you know, the culture is being exploited in a way, but you know, during the sample piece, it's obvious that he's, you know, very weary of cultures outside of his own. I don't know if that's supposed to be intentionally like ironic. Track number 3, Prayer Song. Them drums is hitting. I don't care what nobody say. Them drums, oh my god. They got even better.
If you wanna help me to kiss me and fuck me later, gentrify all my people, it's emptiness on the table. If you wanna help me to put me inside the cusp, but how my city gonna run off shits and giggles. Politician overzealous with the provolone, ish, dibbles and incidentals to crash the.
Oh man, I really like that line. In my city, you gotta run off. What was it? Laughs and giggles. You know, and it's a nod to violence in, you know, in her city, I won't necessarily say in her area, but just where she's from. It's a nod to that, basically saying you can't, you know, you have to find the good in something to get by where she's from, you know. And I understand that, you know, being from Detroit is kind of like, not her, but being from Detroit, I can understand like how you have to make the best out of whatever situation you're in. So I like the way she kind of just described that real quick, didn't get too into it, but like she really just said a lot by saying a little right there.
It's grateful dead and life for me. Apple pie on Sunday morning.
Is that her singing? Cause that sounds pretty good.
My mama finally seen a baby on channel 2. She let me better when I be keeping the streets clean. A free man in the lane of the noose. They ain't tell me how to crutch his shoe. I did. They only taught me how to check her pulse. She did.
See, I like this song a lot now. Musically, I really enjoy this track, but the one thing that I really have to point out is how she like changed her perspective from, you know, her own to the male perspective in the second half of that track, and saying, I don't know if this is like, again, her saying that this is what she's seen men having to grow up with or having to deal with, being raised to ignore their emotions and being raised to ignore the things that they should value, to, you know, protect themselves, defend themselves in the street, you know, teach their own children the same cycle and everything like that. I also like how she explains her experiences in LA and saying how this is a dark city where, you know, a lot of things happen, especially when it comes to messing with yourself and changing yourself. She mentions a relationship with the doctor. Again, she's giving me like perspective detailing here. She's giving me like more of her own thoughts on things that she sees around her, as opposed to just keeping it all centered around her, or, you know, keeping it very one-dimensional. So I like all the different angles that I'm getting so far. Track number 4 is Window. Intros sound like complete old Disney Channel movie intros, or some Tom and Jerry cartoon opening. I don't know. It just sounds so like lush. It feels good, I guess you could say.
Don't nobody really know me. Here when empathy was empathy only when you was into me. Kiss me back to save ya, happy, happy. Nothing is me French in the tabby. Me so happy now, me so Mississippi kiss me till I drown. Everybody think that people I thought you came 5 tickets made my pussy the sequel, so you really don't think about me.
Maybe she wasn't ready to be in a relationship, I guess she might be trying to say. And, you know, the chorus, the hook kind of explains that, you know, stop looking outside and start looking in, so you can, you know, find yourself, so you can, you know what you really want, know who you really are, know what you deserve and everything like that. So these relationships that she's describing don't happen unintentionally. Again, musically, this is the 4th track that I've really enjoyed, based off just how grand the production is and how organic and natural it sounds. It doesn't sound like really flashy or gimmicky. Track number 5, Don't Forget About Me.
Fishy finding chemo smoke and seaweed for calm. These Disney movies too close. You title emo, no name. Thank you for your sweet telephone. No money. Tell them no name almost passed out drinking. Secret is she really think it saves lives. I pray my mama don't forget about me. I pray my granny don't forget about me.
That was probably one track that was more house inspired to me that I didn't really fully rock with musically. Vocally, I like where she's coming, like, as far as what she's saying, I like where she's coming from. Maybe just like the way I'm interpreting it is like almost as if she's a little worried because she spent so much time, you know, recently possibly away from her family, especially in situations where tragedy just recently occurred, and then she's back to Beverly Hills. Like she walked, or she went right back after the funeral or something like that, like not giving herself much time, or her family much time to kind of mourn together, or, you know, process things together. And she's in the city where Vicodin is popular, where drugs are the medication, or drugs make you feel better and forget. At least that's what people think. And I guess she's just kind of saying, like, I hope in doing all this that, you know, even if my soul is eternal, my family, my loved ones, my close ones, if theirs are too, I hope they don't forget about me. It's almost like she feels a little guilty in a way. Track number 6, Regal.
Yeah, I'm looking like I'm the homie. I'm tatted from head to shoulder. I'm colder when he don't hold me. I'm warmer inside the casket. Basket atop my head. Give him right surrounding politics to bear more arms and watch the bears come out. Give him right surrounding politics to bear more arms and watch the bears come out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I get it now. It's like when I first get into these tracks, there's so much to appreciate already musically, that there's not really much in the way of any kind of climax for each track specifically. Like I like how some of the hooks are low key for some of the tracks, but like with this one, particularly speaking, it's like there's no higher moment. Of course, you notice the instrumental a lot more when her vocals stop, but I don't know if that's because it's just her vocal stop and now I'm only left with the instrumental, or if it's because the instrumental is so grand that that's the only thing I have to pay attention to for the remainder of the track. I don't know which one it is right now, but it's noteworthy. Like, I think about it while I'm listening to the track, how much music there is to listen to and the attention to detail with that music. I just don't know if that music is like popping. I don't know if the sound of that for that track specifically just pops for me. Track number 7, Monaco Bay.
Really wanna go someday. I wanna fall in love in Montego Bay. I know my heart is. I had a dream across seas for you and me.
Sounds like a 90s comedy bar, like a music you'd be playing at a 90s comedy bar. When the comics are off stage, you have her come in between them as an interlude. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I know he eat me like I'm wifey. You know my hotel overpricey, so he gon' fuck me like I'm Oprah. Classy bitch only use a coaster. Now swimming in the money with a ducky too.
Oh shit, the Oprah line.
I lick them up, oh yes I really do. Protection is a wave, cause we.
I love the jazziness and the grooviness of that track. It gives me such a building set for an older crowd, and this is the jazz band that's come up to perform for them is almost what it sounds like. I like how Noname is a little bit more a little bit less self-deprecating and just a little bit more confident. She describes her relationship sexually here without giving too much information. And it just kind of just rolls off the tongue. It feels natural. It doesn't feel like she's forcing it. It just feels like she's talking about, hey, I had sex and this is what it was like. I guess I can appreciate it more just because it doesn't feel out of place. Track number 8 is Ace.
Whiskey with the team, got it bubbling. I got trees in my luggage. I got teams out of London. Hope I'm making runs. I'm on track. I'm in this field. I'm shocked you put me in my field.
Is that Saba?
Ready, clap, clap, clappity, clap, clap. I done clapped her. Smirking, I crash if the
Wait, that's Smino.
She think I'm a liar like the old Obama.
That's Smino.
Never had teams out of London. Hope you care what you say.
Sound like they wearing adult diapers and globalization scary and fucking is fantastic. And frankly, I find it funny that Morgan is still acting. Bruce for money, Aphrodite and Domino's, Amy Biscotti to
That
money.
is funny.
Labels got these niggas just doing it for the cloud. I'm just writing my dark.
In a minute, my landlord been getting pissed cause I barely attended. I'm
God,
overseas with the yen and shit.
this
And
track
I
is
called the last
great.
time my last show was drop all the albums. I just have forget cause I know I got the gift like an elf and been rapping raps around them like I'm a belt. That's ting, not ginger beer. I was spending it.
Oh my
I left
God.
$1 in the NFL. Pure grade delicatessen. Dan, I really can tell it.
Track was perfect. Smino, great on the hook. Those vocals like creeping in the very beginning are great. I don't know if those are also from Smino. Her verse is amazing. Saba's verse is amazing. It's like, wow. They all seem to be talking about being self-sufficient, being able to do things for yourself with your own group, being organic, giving themselves a lot of credit that, others and the media and the people in the limelight most likely won't give them. It's good to be confident in your own craft and not give so much credit to things that are already given so much credit. Her talking about exposing her secrets and asking why Morgan Freeman's still acting. Smino's vocals are great. I love all their verses. Great song. Track number 9, Part of Me.
Mona Lisa piece of pepperoni, smiling over Sony speakers, getting a fit. Often on for the shits. Now birthdays and funerals will only bring the family out. Riddle me no. Politician do a dance.
An antiseptic, the fat boy anorexic, hailing me cause my complexion wrist like an etch of sketches. I'm sculpting the pain in them like Ammonia Lewis. My notebooks.
Best line, one of the best lines in this whole album just showed up. Only birthdays and funerals bring the family out. Great line. Track number 10 is With You.
I'm a halfway hallelujahs. I tippy-toed in the nail all the fluctuations on scales of the missing therapy sessions of now I want my drink back. Somebody hold me like I'm almost enough. Somebody told me pray for heaven, so how?
Great vocals.
I'm see won't forget me to tell you that smells like peaches, releases on lovers, lane chains and laughter from London.
And we got the final track, track number 11, Noname. Whoever that is killing the strings. Is she going back to church or something? Like after her whole adventure, she comes back to her hometown, to her family, and she goes to church or something?
The inmate registries that they put me in prison. I sold the answers in land. Gentlemen of the thread. And I'm riding in cities where niggas scared of the feds. Only worldly possession I have is life. Only room that I died in was 25. What's an eye for an eye when niggas won't love you back? Cause when we walk into heaven, nobody's name gonna exist. Balance movements of joy, nakedness, radiance.
It's almost like for the final track, she's kind of saying why her name doesn't actually matter. It doesn't really come across as pessimistic as it might seem to say that like life has no meaning and when you die your name won't matter. I think it's more to say that she's saying like there's a no name in you, everyone is kind of similar in that regard. As far as the album experience, I think it's a lot more mature than Telephone. It's a lot less self-deprecating and a lot more confident. Not saying that she takes herself seriously to the point where she can't have fun or make a joke. Obviously, she references those being key factors in surviving in the city that she's from. But I think the thing that I like more here is these are experiences that she seems to be running us through as opposed to these solidified ideas that she's holding herself to that you also should indoctrinate. It feels more or less like she's just giving us an update, a life update, more than, you know, this code of ethics that she follows. It seems that she's open to change. She's open to experiences. She's open to, you know, just life itself as opposed to trying to figure it out. And I think that's one thing that I appreciated about her music is just feeling like she wasn't trying to have all the answers. It just felt like she was trying to describe her present moment. I mean, in this album, we get life beyond just Chicago. We get life, of course, detailing events in some regards to Chicago. I'm assuming she's going back and forth to her hometown and to LA to either record this album or maybe during her touring experience or after her touring experience. I don't know. From what I get from the music, she seems to feel a little bit better, just in regards to, you know, having answers about herself that she may not have had before on Telephone. You know, experiencing new things when it comes to sex, experiencing new things when it comes to how she views herself and her family, how she views other people. I like that we get her perspective on more than just herself. Even on the relationship track, she's still kind of not putting all the blame on the other person like the average I don't fuck with you type of, you know, music that we would get from a heartbreak artist. And she comes off as someone who isn't serious enough that I would have to call her, you know, solidified lyricist, you know, like conscious. She's a lyrical spiritual miracle or anything like that. She's not trying to give you a sermon through song. It just seems like she's, you know, expressing her femininity and also kind of letting you know how she just feels. It's like she's really coming across as like a regular human being as opposed to, you know, trying to be another something that's already in the industry or, you know, trying to prove that she's not something else that you would view in a negative light in the industry. So it's just, it's kind of like a healthy balance of humanity, being able to take yourself and your ideas serious only to a certain degree and still be open to new information and learning in the future. Some things that I really enjoy about this project, especially the track that is like Chicagoland with Smino and Saba. Those tracks are amazing. Only negatives I think I would really have about this album is the fact that, you know, sometimes musically there isn't really a climax. I mean, you know, there are on some tracks that are heavier, and I really do like the live instrumentation of this album. Live instruments are something that generally get me to enjoy music overall because it's so pleasing to the ear. So it generally sways me a little bit more in the positive direction. But some of these tracks just seem to lack a climactic moment because musically it has so much focus on that before we get to a hook or before we get to a chorus. I feel like I've already experienced the peak of the song musically, and there's not really that much else to get to or appreciate after she's done with her verses. Sometimes the song just carries out for the remainder, or sometimes, you know, it goes on for, I don't know, a very long time during the intro. There are a lot of tracks that have a similar aesthetic that can kind of make the album, you know, like a run through track, like make it feel like you're just experiencing one longer track with certain highs and certain lows. Not really going too harsh on it because I still feel like I got a lot of information in just a half an hour. Like, this was a pretty big update, so I don't feel like I really missed out on anything, it being as short as it was. Main thing here is we got her experience in LA, her experience in Chicago, leaving, going to an area that she's not necessarily familiar with and having a perspective on that, having her own opinion of the male perspective in Chicago, having her opinion on her ex and her opinion on sex and her opinion on politics and her opinion on business. It just seems like we got a lot of content in just a half hour. So that is one thing about this album that I really enjoy, is how much I feel like I know more about Noname than I did before coming into it. Noname, Room 25. A lot more mature, a lot less kiddish, seems to take herself a little bit more, or just be a little bit more confident. That's kind of what I'm feeling with this album, but still a pretty good listen. Enjoyed it for what it was, took away as much content that I could from it off my initial listen, and if I get anything more out of it, you'll see an update video soon. But thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time. Noname, you did a great job with this one. Really enjoy a lot of these tracks, and I'll see y'all next time. I'm out. Peace.